This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the Cannabis Goldsmith. Aren't you tired of it already? Holy crap. You know, last night I was watching this stupid throne speech from New Russia, from the Republic of Nazi Russia to the south of us. And about an hour into it, I was like, why am I even watching this crap, right? It's just propaganda. It's stagecraft. It's like, yeah, you know, and I switched it off and I went to sleep. It's like, okay, if anything's going to happen, I'll hear about it in the morning. And you know what? Nothing happened. It was just apparently an hour and a half of nothing, of propaganda, of, you know, you get taught in history about the rise of Nazis in Germany. And you see these shots of Hitler standing on stage with the big eagle behind him and the flags and all this stuff. That's what this was last night. It was exactly the same. You know, I used to watch these you'd see these old newsreels of Hitler, right? And making these speeches and riding in an open vehicle through all these soldiers saluting their Nazi salutes, right? All this, I thought this is stupid. How do people ever fall for this shit, right? Like, how do they? There's seriousness to it. There's a kind of a fear that they're trying to generate as well with all the threatening and then there's the symbolism that they want to tie the fear to the symbolism. Artists understand all this fluffy stuff around symbols and colors and stuff like that. We understand this, and this is all shaped towards a particular political goal, just like Hitler. You know, we can tell what he was trying to do in those photos, even though they're black and white. We can sense the color coming out of it. And the color is rage, right? It's anger. It's this little tin pot dictator can command these huge forces against the rest of the world. Now, this is what's happening. This is what's happening in the United States, right? They've become this kind of quasi-Nazi Russian republic under the guide of one new president and or czar. What shall we call him? A Putin Jr. You know. Anyway, so I was watching this last night. I tuned it out, but then this morning I thought about it more seriously, and it's like, okay, this is exactly like Hitler was doing. These grand stage things where they shit on the opposition, they humiliate the opposition in front of the cheering Nazis next to them. So this is all going on television now. It's not on black and white film strips. This is coming right out of the White House, pumped around the world. Now, Greenland, we're going to take Greenland one way or another, he says. You know, these are Nazis. And the funny thing is the Americans don't realize it yet. You know, there's only maybe a handful of Americans who sense what's going on in their country. This is really amazing to watch, and I can't help but think if it was like this in Nazi before Hitler took full command of and killed off his enemies and took the world to war. Now, I think this is just my opinion. I'm an old guy, just an observer, a Canadian. I'm born Canadian. I love this country. I'm not a rocket scientist, but I like to learn, and I like to fill my brain with as much knowledge from different sources as possible. This has always been the case in my life. And to this, I thank my mom, who said, learn something new every day. And this is what I try to do every single day I'm alive, is to try and learn not just one thing, but more than one thing. So I'm always watching and listening and learning and reading and all that. Maybe it's an addiction, but I don't know. Maybe I'm looking for something. Maybe I'm looking for a solution, an answer to the problems of the world, the problems that affect us, the problems that affect my country, Canada, here. Maybe that's what I'm looking for with all this knowledge, this search for knowledge. And soon we won't even have to do that. Soon we'll have the AI do it for us and bring us all the knowledge that it thinks we need. There's a big danger in that too. But anyway, back to the imagery of the state of the Russian Republic speech last night. All right, it's all just created to big up the leader and diminish everyone else. That's all it is. And it gets everyone into this groove of supporting the leader no matter what, right? And you see them standing up and clapping like seals last night on television. And somebody was sniping at them from the crowd, so the vice president stood up and pointed, get him out of there, kind of thing. Like, no free speech here. Out you go, out, old man with the cane. This is America. This is the new America. So the Americans don't understand what has happened to their country yet. They don't. Americans are. Man, I love them, but they're not the smartest knives. They're not the sharpest knives in the drawer. Now, granted, a 0.01% of them are, but the rest of them just are kind of regular folk who just go about their daily lives, and then suddenly they go to the grocery store and they want to buy a steak, and suddenly it costs 3 times as much. There was a news story yesterday on Fox News where this guy was standing in a new car lot in the United States, and he said yesterday this truck cost $80,000 in the U.S. Today, after tariffs, it costs $100,000. The price has gone up overnight by $20,000, and nobody's going to buy the truck. So that's what it amounts to in the United States. And as all these forces start coming to, these economic forces start coming together because of the tariffs that the Nazi Russian leader has imposing on the world. He's got a one-track mind around it. He has no understanding what tariffs are. People are trying to explain to him yesterday. It was so funny. I don't watch television, but I was seeing all these clips of people, all these mainstream media people in the United States with charts trying to explain what tariffs are to the president because he doesn't know. He has no idea. He thinks that Canadians are going to pay the tariffs that he's putting on our products. No, you're going to pay the tariffs. If I export something to you, if I sell an American one of my sterling silver hockey sticks, the moment it crosses the border, your Nazi president is going to put 25% extra tax on it that you are going to pay. I'm not going to pay that. Oh, granted, now this positions my products outside of the affordability of most products, similar products in the United States. But granted, nobody makes products like us in the United States, and they might eventually because they won't be able to get them from us. I have no interest. I really have no interest in selling to Americans anymore. They're just disgusting me right now, right? Boo. Boo at their national anthem and boo at their flag. They elected a Nazi leader, and until they figure out what's going on with their own country, we can't count on them for anything, really. I mean, a lunatic is in charge, and he doesn't honor any kind of agreement. He doesn't honor contracts. The tariff thing is he's breaking a contract he created with us. The CUSMA, the new NAFTA agreement in North America. He signed that. He created that. No. He's saying this was a horrible deal. Whoever signed that, was an idiot. Him. He's the idiot. But anyway, enough of that. We all know this. We all know he's crazy. He's insane. But what are we all going to do about it? That's the real situation. So we've got economy. The economies of North America are in flux. Tariffs went in on yesterday, and our temporary Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who knows what's going to happen there? We don't even have a government, but he has reciprocal tariffs immediately. Now, what this means for a jewelers in Canada is that our input costs have gone up 25%, because if we use American components in our jewelry pieces, each one of those pieces is going to be taxed by the federal government, our federal government, the moment it crosses the border. So I suspect for example, if I have a jewelry piece I'm working on and I need a particular latch for it or something, and the only maker is a U.S. maker, and I order it off Etsy, as soon as it crosses the border here, it's going to be 25% taxed by the Canadian government. So it's going to cost me 25% more as soon as it crosses the border. The price I see on the Etsy site is not going to be the final price I pay in Canada. That's what a tariff will do to us here in Canada. So our own government's tariffs are making U.S. products even more expensive to buy here in Canada. And we're not going to, why would anyone buy them? So this is why tariff wars are just bad for everybody, because it's a downward spiral of escalating costs for consumers. Now, the politicians don't care because they get involved in the process. They institute these tariffs that punish everyone, and then only they can lift them. So it encourages their involvement in our lives. And I think this is why they do it, fundamentally. They want to appear relevant in our lives when they are the leader of the country. Like our Trudeau guy, he's not even in power. He's dissolved Parliament. There's only 4 days left before he's supposed to leave. Nobody really knows if he's going to leave or not, even though he's resigned. He resigned months ago, and he's still there. Nobody in Canada understands what's going on now and who's in power in Canada. And this is a big danger for us. But anyway, these guys, they want to engage with tariffs so they stay relevant in the lives of Canadians and Americans. And only they implement them, and then they hurt the people, and then the people complain, so only they can lift them. It's just like an endless cycle of mayhem and madness. So Canadian jewelers have we're going to have increased input costs if we buy U.S. stuff. And, a lot of our components don't come from the United States and Canada. They come from other countries, Asia, gemstones and stuff. But tools come from the United States. A lot of the jewelry tools that we use, the best tools, used to come from the United States, but I think we're going to start having to have them, we're going to have to buy tools elsewhere, maybe in Europe. The Europeans make excellent high-quality jewelry tools as well, so we'll just have to buy European instead of buying American-made tools, which are going to be 25% more expensive right now as of today. So that's the situation in the economic environment for jewelers in Canada. Now, that's not the only bad news about it. The real bad news is the price of gold. The price of gold is at $3,000 US almost, and what that does to the jewelry market, it just completely flattens and compresses it. It shuts it down. It puts it's like getting a big can of syrup and pouring it on the market. It slows everything down because, frankly, jewelry pieces become way too expensive when they're made of gold. People switch to silver. Like, I haven't made a gold jewelry piece in a very, very long time now, because gold is just too expensive for most people to buy. Now, you're thinking, oh, I can get plated. No. We never get anything plated. This is a tip from me. Never get a piece of plated jewelry ever in your life, unless, of course, it's a gift from somebody and nothing more can be afforded. Rather get something in silver than get a gold plated something or other. Anyway, back to the price of gold. The price of gold, when it gets so high, what happens is when people are in the jewelry shop and they're looking at a ring, it's the price has just gone up like 50% higher, and it's the same ring, right? Nothing else has changed about it since last year or the year before, but now it costs 50% more, and the desire to buy it goes down, right? And what's confusing for most consumers buying gold is that they think gold plated and gold is the same, but it's not. Ultimately they understand that it's not, but they think they can pretend it's real gold by wearing a plated object, and no. So anyway, the types of jewelry, the fashion jewelry made out of gold, the super high-end pieces made out of gold, for high-end luxury customers, all this stuff is compressing us because the pieces are getting way too expensive to buy. Now, combine that with diamonds collapsing. Now, I told you in our show a couple years ago, do diamonds have a future? See above. That diamonds didn't have a future, and sure enough, diamonds don't. And De Beers is trying to sell itself off, trying to cleave off its diamond business and sell it to somebody. And their price is dropping as they try and sell it. Nobody's interested in it. I can't help but think about our mines that we have in northern Canada. We had diamond mines, and we used to sell, De Beers actually, they used to sell, Canadian diamonds. Say, okay, this is a Canadian. We'll laser mark them Canadian because they were mined in Canada. They weren't mined in the conflict zones of the world, and so they're better, and there would be a premium on the cost of the diamonds. Not only because they were conflict-free, but because it was to dig them out of the north in these remote areas was enormously expensive to do. Now, when the price of diamonds goes down to nothing, those mines are finished. They're gone. And all the stock that De Beers has over the generations, it stockpiles its diamonds. It mines the diamonds, stockpiles them, and then releases them gradually. And this is what it would do, release them gradually to the market to keep the price artificially high. And, that's what kept the diamond trade, the diamond jewelry business relatively stable over generations. But that's gone now because of synthetic manufactured diamonds. They're getting bigger and bigger and cheaper to make, and they've just dropped the value of natural diamonds to when consumers can't tell the difference, right? So how can you charge a premium on something that looks exactly the same? You can get a microscope and look at them. Yeah, only an expert could tell, but maybe even not. Like how are you going to put a profit margin on one, saying one is better than the other? Like, it's just really difficult to do. And so De Beers has this company, this legacy of being the diamond producer, the natural diamond producer, and the world's leading diamond producer. This is all their rep that they've built over time. The sponsoring of James Bond movies or whatever they were doing, like just to create this impression of diamond magnificence. It's all gone. Like, who's going to buy that company now? Like, really? I wonder. So anyway, our diamond trade here in Canada, I don't see our natural diamond mining business to be that exciting for the next few years coming ahead. But there might be some other minerals in those holes up north. It could be It could be lithium down there. It's something that coincides with diamonds. I haven't done the research, but maybe there might be some rare earth minerals in those holes that could be extracted to bring back business to those areas. But, it was just kind of a remote digging holes in the ground up in the north to make jewelry that nobody wants. Like, this is not, it's not going to work. All right. How's that for exciting and depressing for the art and design and jewelry podcast? But look, it's not all that bad. I mean, it is that bad, but it's not terrible. Jewelers are still making matrimonial rings, making the rings the wedding rings and the engagement rings that the engagement rings might be changing, but the wedding bands are still wedding bands, and we're still making those. And so there's still a need for jewelers. I mean, it might not be the most exotic, expensive stuff anymore for a while, but we're still making the pieces that people need in order to thrive and survive in society. Getting married requires jewelers, and we're here to help. And now the good news. The good news is that we're Canadian. We're Canadian. We can deal with this. We can deal with this. We can deal with whatever the orange Russian Nazi public to our south is going to do. We can deal with that. We can deal with it. We're Canadian. We actually colonized the most difficult part of this continent. We are tough as nails, Canadians. We're innovative. We're smart. We have more of a European mentality than the Americans do. So we have more of a world. We can communicate with people around the world in a much better, in a much more fluent way than the Americans can. Also, we are on the continent, and we have amazing resources. Sure, the diamond trade might suck right now, but we've got all kinds of other minerals and huge amounts of gold too. So we're looking pretty. All we have to do is harness our resources and focus them towards a goal. Now, this is the purpose of politicians, and we have to sort that out, and eventually we'll get to it. But, this country's been around a while. I live in the oldest part of Canada, in Upper Canada right now. And as I look across the river this morning, the sun has just come up, and there's this huge cloud over the United States. I can see the Americans there, and they're like driving around on the road and stuff. And there's this cloud. It's shaped like a giant anvil. Like, in the Bugs Bunny cartoons, the Wile E. Coyote with the giant anvil. Like, there's a cloud that looks like a giant anvil right above America. And I think they will soon realize what they're doing to themselves, and hopefully deal with it. But whatever, the world moves on. We'll move around them. Where the European leaders are already meeting to sort out a new Europe. Hopefully Canada will be a part of that. We'll be able to trade into that. I'll be able to sell my jewelry products into Europe. This summer, I'm hoping to take a trip to Europe to open up some connections in Europe to sell jewelry products into Europe. Luxury high-end jewelry products into Europe. And perhaps other luxury Canadian products into Europe. I'm hoping to encourage our new government when it comes to get on a trade mission to go to Europe and start opening up channels to sell Canada into Europe, avoiding the United States and avoiding the tariffs that we don't want to deal with anymore, or the nasty people who continue to insult us. Why should we do business with them? So that's the story. The giant anvil is about to drop on the United States, and Canada is not dropping it. The United States is dropping it on itself. So everything is going to slow down, I think. Already the jewelers, the canaries in the coal mine we in our sparkling diamond attire, it doesn't work anymore. We're back to basics. We're getting back to wedding bands now. We're getting back to silver belt buckles. We're getting back to nitty-gritty. We're getting back to helping our neighbors. We're getting back to growing our own vegetables at home. We're getting back to buying Canadian products on the shelf. I was so pleased. Look, we have a premier, there's a local provincial leader in my province here, who made an announcement yesterday. He's going to insist that retail stores here put Canadian flags next to Canadian made or product of Canada products. So consumers can identify on the shelf the Canadian made food product that they buy. Now there's apps and everything available in Canada now where we can point our phones at the label on an object in a store and it will tell you whether it's Canadian or not to buy it. But what this premier said, which I never even considered, but I thought was actually quite smart, is not only do we put Canadian flags on the shelves, but we put American flags next to the American-made products. So Canadians can choose. Do we want to buy an American product or do we want to buy a Canadian product? And I'm buying as many Canadian products as I can. What is the orange Nazi going to do? Stick a gun to my head to buy a can of beans from Heinz in the United States? He's not going to do that. I wouldn't buy it. What is he going to do? So on our shelves now, I think we're going to start seeing two kinds of flags: U.S. flag, Canadian flag, and we'll be able to buy food on that right away without even looking at an app. I mean, there's lots of old people in this area. They don't have apps. I don't use I wouldn't download some odd app to do this, but I will read a label, certainly, and I will look at a can, and I will avoid buying U.S. products. I am doing it already, and many Canadians are. And I think many in Europe are doing it as well. So you listeners in Europe, go into your grocery store and tell them, look, why don't you put American flags on the products that are American on your shelves? And that way people can avoid buying them. How's that? Easy. It's easy. Put a little sticker. That's all you do, a little sticker right next to it. Not asking you guys to put Canadian flags next to our products. Perhaps you could import more of our products into Europe. But for now, just identify the American products on your shelves so people can avoid buying them. Now that's it. The world is polarizing and moving away from the United States. I don't know which pole it's going to end up in. All the countries of the free world, like Europe and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all these countries are all veering away quickly from the United States as they go batshit. So that's the story. The jewelry trade is compressed. The diamond business is over. The natural diamond business is over. And unless, of course, there's like a fist-sized natural diamond found in Botswana or something, then that certainly has value because of its rarity. But otherwise, no, right? It's time to move on from diamonds. I've been saying that to move into other stones that I think are better looking and more interesting, tourmalines and like spinels and different kinds of gemstones instead of diamonds, natural colored sapphires. There's all kinds of other stones that have better value, real value, I think, than diamonds do right now. And wedding bands are wedding bands, and thankfully our jewelers are still making those. Well, I was going to start this whole other podcast, and I still might, about politics. Look, this whole podcast was about politics. But I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to be about jewelry. But I did put some of that in too, didn't I? I'm just trying to figure out a way to strip out the politics. But there doesn't seem to be a way because it's like a fungus that's grown all over the world. This for lack of a better word, Russian Nazi fungus, right? That's just growing from the United States, and it's appearing in other countries too. But, it's not here in Canada. We're the resistance. We're the resistance. We're going to work on our arts. We're going to make paintings. We're going to work on our pottery. We're going to build jewelry pieces slowly, but we're going to do it. We're going to digitize film. We're going to make documentary films. We're going to make movies. We're going to write books. We're going to create art here in Canada. Our artists are fantastic. We're going to be painting. We're going to be creating our pieces in spite of the mayhem that goes on in the world. And likely because of it too. We can deal. We can see the symbolism of all this stuff going on. People can't. Most people, I guess, they can't see it. But artists have this capacity to see symbolism and color and how that all interacts with intent. And the intent isn't good coming from the United States. That's the story this week. So I was going to start another podcast to cleave off the political stuff. I still might. I've recorded it 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 episodes, over and over, different ones. Much like I did with this when I first started this podcast. But we'll see if I launch it or not. I don't know. Anyway, I'm buckling down, tucking in. Buckling down is the word to use, I think, or not going to ground yet, but just making sure we have our feet placed firmly on Canadian ground. Just feel the country under your feet here in Canada. And if you're in Europe, feel the land under your feet. Feel it. This is your land. It's not American land. Feel it. This is no matter what they're saying or doing in their crazy country, this is your land. Feel it. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm going to go out and stand on the ice in the property. There's like a sheet of ice out there. You know, there's a 4-inch thick sheet of ice on the ground. There's a 2-foot high shelf of snow above that on the property. And it's, God, this winter's lasting so long. But soon, it'll be over. And spring will be here. See you next week. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. We recorded in our studio in southeastern Ontario along the St. Lawrence River, where we can see America across the river. Subscribe to the Cannabis Goldsmith wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show and tell your fellow artist friends about it. It's the only artist podcast coming to you right from a studio every Wednesday morning. We'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith. Oh, if you want to reach me, send me an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening.